and it's a layered account. And I don't know if anybody watches MasterChef, but sometimes contestants say, it's the first time I've ever put this together when they're cooking it, and this is the first time other than one run through. So if the transitions screw up a bit, I apologise in advance. So, so I'm here today to talk about health inequalities experienced by autistic people with severe mental illness when they were admitted as patients in psychiatric hospitals. This isn't a new issue. It's been recognised for many years, along with concerns about inappropriate detention for autistic people under the Mental Health Act. And unfortunately, very little has meaningfully changed, despite a lot of money and legislation and policy being fed into this process. And I'm just going to acknowledge that. That's cool. In this presentation, I speak from multiple subjectivities. As service user, I draw directly on my hospital records to show how personhood is constructed within clinical documentation. I also speak as Jenn, a creative neurodivergent person with a lived experience of inequality in inpatient settings, which acts as a counterpoint to that recorded identity of service user. And finally, I speak here today as a PhD researcher at the University of Nottingham, examining how digital institutional data shapes different forms of selfhood. From this position, I consider how the data collected about me during hospitalisation contributed not only to inequalities in health and poor outcomes for me, but also to the diminishment of my personhood. And the bit that I've missed out is that I explore this through my own lived experience of being detained sectioned under the Mental Health Act, which actually took place in the last 3 months of 2025, and I haven't returned to study yet. So if I'm hiding behind a bit of paper, that's because these things are very immediate for me still. So this presentation includes creative writing, video and photography that I created whilst I was in hospital. I've taken care to remove all identifying details, both in these materials that are self-created and also in the excerpts that I've put together from my medical records. I'd like to say that I recognise that I hold narrative authority over the material that I have selected, but this is no more, right, I'm just going to pause it there, but this is no more or no less than the authority held by the professionals who recorded me and whose names will not be attached to this account in the way that my name is attached to their account of me. And for me, this work is an act of resistance. It's a way of being heard on my own terms and reclaiming my dignity and my autonomy. And it's through this lens that I examine what digital institutional data and its infrastructure do. So this is Jenn, one of the subjectivities being subject to Oxehealth, which is a digital surveillance recording device which is installed on a lot of mental health wards now.
Oxehealth is
Can you hear that?
Quite soft.
Oxehealth is essentially a mental camera which is switched on at times. It detects your heart rate and your respiration. And in addition to this, it offers staff notifications from their notifications. So if you're in your bathroom for more than 5 minutes, the staff gets a notification. If there is more than one person in your room, the staff gets a notification. If your bedroom door is open, you get a notification. And when there's a notification, the staff can see what's going on. So, and they can remotely detect, but sometimes they will use camera functions. So the camera can be switched on at any point and
checked Jenn's understanding of Oxehealth and if they were in agreement with this. Noted this is in relation with their PhDs who understood Oxehealth very well and they were okay with having Oxehealth switched on. Also completed their informal rights and Jenn understood these.
Okay, so this was, so over time I began to interact with the system on the ward and its consequences for me, and as I did, my being okay with it changed. So, for example, this is what the digital surveillance in your room looks like. So this is footage I took whilst in hospital. You can see my bed is there, and the Oxehealth monitor, which was the thing that was glowing, sits above your bed directly all the time and is on all the time. And another piece of work. So this is what digital surveillance in the system and the nurses' station and the communal area looks like. So I became aware that data was being collected about me continuously, and this was freely available to anyone walking up to the large window, the large observation window in the nurses' station, because of how the screen was positioned. Even patients or visitors. What I haven't obviously put is that there were patients' names on this as well. I became acutely aware of the red light above my bed at all times, and it fundamentally changed my relationship with my environment. Psychiatric hospitals are places with little dignity or privacy at the best of times. The one place I might hope to be in, my bedroom, was lost in this regard because I did not know when the staff might be observing me through the camera or not. So, continuous observation through digital surveillance shapes how I existed within this space and also within myself. And this was how it felt. Foucault's panopticon, a straight line, staring down at me, meeting my eye. Every hour of the day, unblinking. Reaching through my optical, unblinking, the red eye of Sauron repeating, reaching through my optical nerve into the fibres of my being, here in hospital. My chest rises and falls like the day. My heart beats, measured and reported, repeating to my wardens. As the ache inside of me, my heart longs for home. And as I developed, I tried to amend this situation.
Jenn was in her bedroom, laid on the floor with mattress she placed over her chair. This made it impossible to assess or see her on Oxehealth device. 2 staff went into Jenn's room and removed mattress and supported her to get off the floor. She was observed to have put herself on the floor twice.
And I just want to be clear that when the staff record support you to do something, what they mean in practice is they will come into your room and force you to do it. That's what happened in my case. I was forced to get off the floor and re-establish the room's arrangement so that the Oxehealth monitoring could continue. Because hospital policy required that I be monitored in this way. So I tried harder to remove myself from observation. I spent several days sleeping on the floor of my bathroom with my head next to the toilet. This didn't work either. As someone with a bipolar spectrum diagnosis, sleep and maintenance of a circadian rhythm are vital to stability and recovery. The use of Oxehealth monitoring in my room did not support my sleep. It disrupted it because I was trying to escape from its constant presence. During this admission, I had the least sleep I had ever had in a week in my life, 15 hours across 7 days. I can't attribute that entirely to Oxehealth. The ward environment was also overstimulating. But Oxehealth was a large part of it. So I asked to have it switched off, asked the staff to switch it off. And the following response is extracted from my notes, my notes, which were a record of a pre-multidisciplinary meeting. So when you're in hospital, You get 20 minutes a week with your psychiatrist, people think, 20 minutes a week, and before the clinical team meet with you, they have a pre-MDM, which is a pre-multidisciplinary meeting, where the professionals get together to discuss you, and as you will see, their position on, and in spite of all of this that you've seen, their position is very clear, and I'm just going to skip it.
Discussion. Pre-multidisciplinary meeting. Patient attempting to refuse Oxehealth monitoring. This will not be granted. Oxehealth to continue. Oxehealth monitoring reiterated as non-negotiable. Patient stated she needed to be naked in her room as part of her sensory diet and felt distressed being filmed. Reassured that video footage is inaccessible to staff and deleted within 24 hours. Oxehealth to remain in place.
So that extract is all of them that have been given that treatment are direct quotes from my notes. And all I've done is that was different parts of a paragraph where I've removed the irrelevant sections between. But the joining of these fragments I think is really powerful and makes the position of the clinical team very clear. My physical health was secondary, my consent was secondary, and my recovery was secondary. The decision had been made before I was even brought into the room to put my case forward. Unfortunately, my experience is not an isolated case. According to information from the Stop Oxehealth campaign, who created this video, this form of monitoring is often installed in private inpatient bedrooms, despite a lack of research on its long-term effects. According to information from the Stop Oxehealth campaign, drawing on lived experience accounts like mine, they report that this kind of surveillance can feel intrusive and dehumanising and may exacerbate distress, including paranoia and hypervigilance. Some individuals describe altering their behaviour significantly to avoid it, including sleeping in bathrooms or leaving their rooms entirely, which closely reflects my own experience. The campaign also raises concerns about surveillance as a restrictive practice, questioning its proportionality, legality and compatibility with trauma-informed care, particularly where consent is limited or absent, again, as it was in my case. And finally, there are further concerns about how recorded data may be stored and used, including the potential for footage to be saved by staff or shared beyond immediate clinical care. So, for example, it's been known that footage has been saved and used in criminal prosecution cases where patients have been distressed and may have done things like assaulted a member of staff on the ward. It's being saved for those purposes. But this obviously raises issues around privacy and control over a person's personal data. So obviously these accounts stand in contrast to how the system was presented to me during my admission about the fact that staff didn't have access and it was deleted. There have been reports of Oxehealth being implicated in avoidable patient deaths, particularly where staff have become over-reliant on it or have ignored its notifications, and this includes in CAMS inpatient settings as well. Campaigns such as Stop Oxehealth called for the removal of this kind of monitoring from inpatient settings, especially from bedrooms and other private spaces, as I experienced it for 3 months. And being clear, some people on Section 3s, I was actually on the Section 3 for a short period of time, they could be in rooms for months and years with this kind of monitoring. So you might ask yourself, what's the point? A review of the peer-reviewed literature on Oxehealth, they've got 10 papers that has been associated with different analyses of their technology. Over 1/3 of them talk about the economic benefit of organisations utilising it. What's far less visible of the lived consequences of these systems of data infrastructure, digital institutional data, and where those consequences fall. Observation didn't just record my behaviour, it changed it. And this is where digital surveillance becomes health inequality. When it produces harm unevenly and undermines selfhood and the well-being of an individual,
The Oxehealth device affected my personhood. As an autistic person, I still movement is the way that I process emotions and it's joy, it's embodied joy when I sing. And I made a friend when I was in hospital, somebody who I worked with remotely, who was working with me as a remote collaborator. This person finding opportunity and support. And we worked together weekly creating ad hoc, spontaneous music and spoken word and melodic combinations, I don't know what you call them. And these sessions were done on WhatsApp video, and Anne couldn't believe the difference in that I moved when I was in hospital compared to when she first met with me on video when I was kind of back at home, because the amount of movement that I engaged in was significant. It was immediately obvious to her as a neurodivergent person. And that was Oxehealth. Oxehealth inhibited me, it limited my self-hood, it frightened me, and the staff and the systems that were using it just didn't know what it was doing, and didn't help me feel. I don't think anybody really had actually comprehended what it was like having a camera in your bedroom, and not knowing when it might be activated. And that was the inspiration of the poem that was written about children who were in bed, because the Oxehealth monitor sits directly on the bed, and sits very many red lights. And it brought to me the panopticon that is written about. I believe in the birth of different potential disciplines. And I thought the panopticon is this sensitive idea of being always observed by various beings, people with greater power, and how that would naturally regulate the behaviour of people. Bring those observed into line with societal and cultural expectation, and that is exactly what happened to me, my experience in hospital. The experience of being observed, limited. And that was the way that I expressed myself.
Did everybody get that? Yeah? Okay. So the poem I was referring to there was the one I read out. Foucault's Panopticon was written at 2 o'clock in the morning with that bloody thing above my bed and the red infrared lights are on all the time. I don't think you have. I'm sure you do have some abstract idea about how chilling it is to sit there with it over you all the time. But I never knew I was watched. I was being watched if I was being watched and when I was being watched. So the person who speaks to you at the allotment, my allotment, and stands here before you today, they stopped. I stopped and I am still fine with my